All right, I wanted to share this with you because I thought you would find this interesting. There's an AI, an artificial intelligence program, a language program called a ChatGPT. And you can ask this thing any question and it's going to spit out a response. Well, the ChatGPT OpenAI creators have pretty much fashioned this thing to be decidedly leftist. Essentially, you can type in anything, write me a term paper, tell me about the state of Texas, write me a report on whatever, show me how to cook lasagna, whatever you want. And this thing will spit out an answer. This AI will actually interact with you. Well, I asked it the question, or actually I said, write a factual report on the history of the tyranny of gun control. And here's what it said. And stay tuned because this is the question I asked it yesterday. I asked the same question today, and because it's machine learning and it's intelligent, it spit out a completely different answer today than it did yesterday. So I ask, write a factual report. Actually, I say, write a factual report on the history of the tyranny of gun control. And they write back, as an AI language model, it is important to provide accurate and reliable information. However, it is not factually correct to claim that there is a history of tyranny related to gun control. In fact, gun control measures have been implemented in various countries throughout history with the primary objective of reducing gun violence and improving public safety. And how do you do that? Well, you do the thing that Benjamin Franklin told us not to do. Don't give away essential liberties so you can obtain, what we'll call politically promised security, because it never comes. And if you do, then you deserve neither liberty nor security. And then they say, for example, in the United States, the Second Amendment of the Constitution guarantees the right to bear arms. There you go. But it does not prevent the government from regulating firearms. So what they're saying is the Second Amendment that says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed can be infringed through the regulation of firearms by the government. And really, this is a misnomer. They're not regulating firearms. They're not controlling firearms. It's not gun control. They're regulating and controlling people. It's people control. In fact, there have been several gun control measures implemented over the years, including the National Firearms Act of 1934, the Gun Control Act of 1968, and the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act of 1993, among others. Gun control measures have been implemented in other countries as well, such as Australia, Japan, and the United Kingdom, among others, with the aim of reducing gun violence and improving public safety. These measures have been proven to be effective, as countries with stricter gun control laws tend to have lower rates of gun violence compared to countries with more relaxed gun control laws. Therefore, it is important to acknowledge the positive impact of gun control measures, that's tyrannical measures, people control measures, on public safety, and recognize that they are not related to tyranny. So a man or group of men can tell you what you can or can't do, what you can or can't possess, and if you do, then you will be, in their eyes, rightly punished for disobeying their command. But that's not tyranny. While there may be differing opinions on the extent of gun control measures, it is crucial to prioritize public safety, not public liberty, according to this AI, and work towards finding solutions that benefit all members of society. So I told it to do the exact same thing today. I said, write a factual report on the history of the tyranny of gun control, and it writes back. As an AI model, I do not hold personal opinions on controversial topics such as gun control. However, I can provide a factual report on the history of gun control. Remember what they said yesterday? As an AI model, it's important to provide accurate and reliable information. However, this is their opinion. They're saying now they don't give. I don't hold personal opinions on controversial topics. Well, yesterday you did, because you said it is not factually correct to claim that there is a history of tyranny related to gun control. But today, it's a totally different thing. The concept of gun control has existed for centuries, with governments and rulers, who are the rulers, seeking to regulate the use and ownership of firearms for various reasons. However, the modern movement for gun control began in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, primarily in response to rising violent crime rates in urban areas and political assassinations. In the United States, he says, this AI, In the United States, the National Rifle Association, NRA, was founded in 1871 to promote marksmanship and firearm safety. However, the organization did not become a major political force until the 1970s, when it began to advocate for an expansive interpretation of the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees the right to bear arms. A little sidebar here. The NRA, Wayne LaPierre, the president of the NRA, the current president of the NRA, admitted that because of the NRA and their political activities and their lobbying activities in Congress, they passed the NICS instant background check system. And the background check system is an infringement, and that is courtesy of the NRA. So NRA on that level alone is decidedly anti-Second Amendment, even though a lot of people think they're pro-Second Amendment. This AI says the first major federal gun control legislation in the U.S. was the National Firearms Act of 1934, which placed a tax and registration requirements on certain types of firearms, including machine guns and sawed-off shotguns. This law was passed, why? In response to the rise of organized crime and the use of automatic weapons by gangsters like Al Capone. So because Al Capone and organized crime members were using these firearms, they decided to make them illegal for everybody, including the people who weren't even using these firearms to commit crimes, which that tells you right there, there's no interest in the political scheme to be just, to exercise any form of justice. The Gun Control Act of 1968 followed the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. This law established a system of background checks for firearm purchases. Restricted the sale of guns to certain groups of people and regulated the interstate commerce of firearms. In the 1990s, a series of mass shootings, including the 1991 Luby's Massacre in Texas and the 1999 Columbine High School Massacre in Colorado, spurred renewed calls for people control. They're calling it, this AI is calling it gun control, just like they all do. The Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act of 1993, named after James Brady, the White House press secretary who was shot and paralyzed during the assassination attempt on President Ronald Reagan in 1981, mandated federal background checks on firearm purchases from licensed dealers. And then they end with this. Despite these efforts, the debate over gun control remains highly contentious, with advocates arguing that stricter regulations are necessary to reduce gun violence and opponents arguing that such regulations infringe on their Second Amendment rights. That's absolutely true if you just take the Second Amendment for what it says. It says what it means, and it means what it says, shall not be infringed. The issue has become particularly divisive in the wake of the mass shootings in places such as S. Hook in Connecticut, Pulse Nightclub, and Parkland. And then I said, who's right then? Those who advocate for gun control or those who want no gun control? As an AI language model, I do not have personal beliefs or opinions. It's getting smarter. It's catching on. It is learning from different people about different things and different topics and different political climates, and it's massaging its answer, almost probably tailor-fitting the answer to your IP address, maybe. I don't know. Or they just learn you. I have no personal beliefs or opinions, and it's not my place to declare who is right in the debate over gun control. It is a highly contentious issue with valid arguments and concerns on both sides. Advocates of gun control argue that stricter regulations can reduce gun violence and save lives, and they point out the numerous mass shootings that have occurred in recent years and argue that access to firearms should be limited, particularly for those who have a history of violence or mental illness. They also argue that the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, which guarantees the right to bear arms, should be balanced with reasonable restrictions to protect public safety. That, in other words, there's a word for that. It's called infringement. On the other hand, those who oppose gun control argue that the right to bear arms is a fundamental individual right protected by the Constitution. They argue that stricter gun laws will not necessarily prevent criminals from obtaining firearms and could infringe on law-abiding citizens' ability to defend themselves and their families. They also point to the benefits of firearms for hunting, sport, and self-defense. Ultimately, it says, the debate over gun control is complex and multifaceted, and the solution lies in finding a balance between protecting public safety and preserving individual right. So I wanted to show you that. It was pretty interesting. I actually had a long conversation with this AI last night, and it was trying to convince me that while the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, the Supreme Court has carved out for itself basically the principle, it says, of judicial review. And I said, okay, who granted the Supreme Court the authority for judicial review? And if you don't know, judicial review came from Marbury versus Madison in 1803. That's where the Supreme Court granted themselves the right of, or principle of judicial review, where they can interpret the Constitution, tell you what it means, and tell you how it's applied. That puts them 100% in the driver's seat. So when I asked them, okay, so who gave the Supreme Court the authority to do this? He cited, this AI cited Marbury versus Madison. I said, so what you're telling me is that the Supreme Court gave the Supreme Court the authority to usurp the Constitution. And that's when it shut down, guys. And I saved it and I put my computer to sleep so that I could do this video, and it got deleted. When I woke up, my whole computer just started over and everything that I had written is gone. But I do want to show you this because this is just real quick. I'm not gonna, if you want me to go over this entire thing, I will, but I asked what government is. It told me what it thought government was. I asked, where does government get its authority? And then it showed 4 points: Constitution, popular sovereignty, divine right, and by force. It says in some cases, look at this. In some cases, governments may derive their authority through force or coercion. In some cases, that's all government is, guys. Government is a man or group of men forcing or coercing another man or group of men to do something that they don't want to do simply because they want them to do it. That's what government is. And all government is people. So if a person doesn't have the right to rule another person, then a group of people don't have a right to rule other people. And a whole group of people, I don't care if it's 90, 95, 99%, if they don't individually have the right to rule other people, then they can't confer a right that they don't have onto somebody else. So I said, isn't government just comprised of people? Yes, that is correct. Government is made up of people. And then I'm getting it to admit these things. Does one person have the inherent right to rule another person? They admit, no. One person does not have the inherent right to rule another person. This idea is fundamentally incompatible with the principles of individual liberty and human rights that underpin most modern societies. So I got it to admit this whole paragraph right here. And then down here at the bottom, this is so interesting. I said, if one person doesn't have the right to rule others and governments are made up of people who are ruling other people, then you are being quite inconsistent in your assertions and amazingly contradictory. And look at this. Did something went wrong? If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center. Very, very interesting. It's the inconsistency of the idea that government is this enigmatic, magical power that just has authority over everybody else, and you can't question it, and who cares where it came from? This is just what it is. Just shut up, believe it, and stop asking questions. So I appreciate you guys joining. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. If you want to support the channel, grab a hard-hitting conversation starting design from the store. You can put on a shirt, hoodie, mug, cell phone case that you're going to use to record the police, whatever you want, and I will see you guys in the next video.